This is Sage Against the Machine. I'm Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
And we have our guest today.
A very important guest.
Do you want an intro?
Sure. This is Melissa. We have Melissa Connors with us. She's running for tribal subchief in the upcoming SRMT elections. Thank you for coming on.
Sure. Awesome.
So we did a little, I put on Facebook that we were going to be asking candidates to come on the show. And so I reached out to you. You were the first one to say yes. And I was, I'm trying not to scare people off of the show or anything, but we are very appreciative that you came on and that you were so responsive right away. So we like to talk about ourselves too. So, there are people who are afraid to come on the show. What made you not be so hesitant to do it?
Well, I love to talk about myself just like you do. I could talk all day about myself.
This is going to go great then. So, why don't you just tell the listeners, the viewers, a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the position?
Okay, my name is Melissa Connors, but because of my side gig, my side hustle, I'm also known as Deva Melissa, or the Popcorn Lady. So I had to put that on my signs that are coming in.
Okay.
That way some people will know who I am.
Yeah.
So the reason I decided to run for subchief is I am getting my master's degree in organizational leadership in December. Never had enough confidence, I don't think, until taking those classes for the past 3 years. And then the more you know, the better you do. Mm-hmm. So then I got a little more confident each class, and now I'm ready to share my wisdom. 25 years working as a frontline worker for the St. Regis Mohawk tribe in multiple departments. And I think I have a lot of wisdom to share, and I have the education to back it up.
So you know the inside workings of the tribe.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. What were some of the positions that you held before?
Okay, so I started out when I graduated with my bachelor's degree in family support.
Okay.
Working with people with disabilities. Love them, still love them. And then I started at mental health. I did that for 16 years. And I worked with 3 psychiatrists during that time. And then I went to the family advocate position.
Okay.
And from there, I went to education. And I did college and career. I paid the kids to go to school.
Yeah.
And the adults too. And then I went to the intensive preventive program through DSS.
Okay.
And that I was a parent advocate coordinator for that position. So, and among that, I also, as 16 to age 21, I was a JOM summer school counselor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My father was the director of that program for 26 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my son loved JOM.
Yeah.
He did it until he was too old to do it anymore.
I believe they call it youth services now. But
Youth services,
it's the same
correct.
thing.
Yeah.
So with all these different positions that you've held within the tribe, what are some of the things that you've seen that you think can be improved upon, and what made you want to strike out and do this?
Okay, so one of the biggest things working at mental health for 16 years is the amount of depression, anxiety disorder, and the bipolar diagnosis. It seems like everybody is being diagnosed bipolar. So when I was working there, I talked to Dr. Wolf at the time, and I said, why are you giving all of our people diagnosis of bipolar? And he goes, am I? And I said, yeah. And then he was just like, I wasn't aware. So that's my job. I was, I thought that was interesting, the increase of all of that mental health disorders. But one of the big things I've noticed recently is that people that are incarcerated, our people, are coming out of incarceration, and they have no place to live.
Yep.
They burned all their bridges. They have no transportation. Some of them don't even have socks. Mm-hmm. And we are expecting this population, the most vulnerable, to come out of prison and then attend parole, probation, mental health, drug and alcohol, find a place to live, get a job, transportation. It's just it's almost setting them up for failure.
Right.
So that is huge. One of the biggest things is recently I work with people where the kids are in foster care.
Yep.
And they were taken from different certain reasons. And the parents it's usually addiction. And that's where the parents are struggling. And that is very sad because the amount of addiction we have on the reservation. And I always ask, well, why? Why do we have such a high population of addiction? Of course, generational trauma,
Sure.
Childhood trauma.
All those anxious, depressed people.
Right.
Are self-medicating because of that.
Yeah.
The ones that are bipolar.
Yeah.
Right. Bipolar. Everybody's bipolar, apparently.
Well, because I talked to somebody about this, and it's somebody in the field, and they said that we do have an incredibly, our rate of bipolar is so much higher here. And so I think that kind of speaks to the generational trauma, of course, is there. But I mean, as you said, when people, they have these undiagnosed issues, and as Josh rightly said, it seems like a lot of people use drugs and alcohol to, kind of try to balance that out to make it not so rough on them. So when you see that, do you think that there's an issue do you think that the diagnoses may not be applicable to as many cases, or is it a situation of we need to get back to the root cause of it and figure out why we have so many people who are getting these diagnoses?
I think that in the mental health system, especially Western medicine, that there needs to be a diagnosis to get paid, for our healthcare to get paid. So bipolar is easy. But the truth is, growing up in a family where bipolar runs rampant, it's true bipolar is you have the highs and then you have the really, really big lows. And you go from manic, like, for example, thinking you see God in the trees, to really low where you can't get off the couch for 3 days.
Yep.
I think that is true bipolar. But I think that people believe that bipolar is, it's easy to say, oh, he's bipolar.
Right.
And they think it's because wishy-washy, thinks this way and then, screaming at 1 minute and then nice the next. That's, in my opinion, that's not true.
That's
bipolar.
just like emotionally deregulated.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not exactly the same as.
My wife is a psych major, graduate, and she says it's emotional. You don't have a high emotional intelligence. That's part of it.
Emotionally unstable.
Well, yeah, but they actually call it emotional intelligence.
I think that, I'd rather be called bipolar than emotionally unstable.
Craig.
See, I said emotionally or your emotional intelligence is high, because that's the term that they actually use.
Yeah.
I actually learned some cool stuff when she was finishing her degree.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Because you got to test it all on you.
Yeah, right?
I told her that, too. I'm like, you're not testing your fucking schoolwork on me.
Hey, it's the first one.
Did she try to diagnose you?
No, but she definitely was telling me stuff, and it was interesting,
Yeah.
And it was just, it's an interesting thing. I think that's why I like to go to the dark side of things and explore those kind of, that kind of stuff.
I just have a side quest here for a moment. Is there anybody who tracks those things, like the rate of...
At the tribe?
Yeah. Is there data for all of that?
I'm positive there is.
Yeah.
I don't know who to ask for that.
Yeah.
But it has to. We have to have that.
Do you think that they would, and I understand the HIPAA, and I get all of that. I wonder if they would give out that data just raw.
Raw would be good.
Yeah, with no names attached.
Who's got this?
Yeah,
but
not even dates of birth or anything.
What is this compared to like the average, national average, the average amongst like poor communities, the average? I don't know if we qualify as a poor community anymore, but.
Well, during
yeah,
COVID,
I'm pretty sure we do.
During COVID, we were listed as other.
Yeah.
We weren't even in the categories.
Yeah, usually we're something else.
Yeah.
That was definitely, well, we were speaking about Trump out, off air. That was when that first started, was other.
Yeah.
Other.
That was an interesting designation for us.
Well, working in the schools, one of the observations is we have things like community that take up where there's slack, where outside of our community, they're much more, isolated.
Yeah.
So they don't have that. So I would call them poor because they're not just, they are poor too. I mean, these towns around us are like destitute.
Yeah.
But also they don't have that either. So
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on the show before. You know, like when somebody has a tragedy, that is one thing about Acculturation that I am always so proud of is that, like, it could be somebody who, you know, you really dislike, bordering on hate. And, you know, if they have a, you know, a very sick person in their family or whatever, we will rally around them, you know, and that is a nice thing, you know, because it shows a difference between, I mean, that's what my father told me when I came back was you're going to see the difference between us and the outside. And it's true.
We are definitely amongst the kindest of people, and people don't even realize that outside of the res. It's interesting because somebody will do a fundraiser. They'll ask me for a basket or whatever. And of course, so at the end of the fundraiser, I said, hey, how did you do? We did awesome. We raised $2,500. And I think to myself, well, I don't say anything, but I'm like, we raised $25,000 for like my auntie who passed away. Yeah. And I mean, you know, Onkwehonwe, I have been to a lot of places in my lifetime, and that is home. Yeah. Best place on earth. And we get a bad rap. But honestly, we're the best among most people.
I mean, when you look at it, we've talked about the border situation with that maniac Tom Homan, the borders are, and we do get a bad rap, you know. And I mean, we can't deny that there is, you know, there are things going on. The border's always been, you know, their border's always been here. We have people who take advantage of it, and I actually have no issue with that as long as people aren't being hurt. But it's, you know, they get to demonize us, you know, like my mother-in-law, Minnie. Yeah. She always likes to say they want to play cowboys and Indians, and they want to do that because it's more intriguing to see, you know, it's a more intriguing headline. It's a more intriguing rural lore, you know, when it's a bunch of Indians who are, you know, doing these things in the shadows, and that's much more fun, you know. And I think that, you know, it does a disservice to us, but it's, you know, I mean, they play on that just to make it more, it'll sell more papers. It'll, you know, it'll draw more viewers. It'll draw more listeners. That's why, I mean, that's part of what we're doing here is the show. We're regular people, and we're better than you a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, it's podunk racism. It's not like the kind of racism where they're Ku Klux Klan, you know, burning crosses. It's more like they just assume what they know is right.
Yeah.
They get together and they have, the Indians don't pay taxes. The Indians do this. The Indians do that. They just assume they're all right.
They get paid just to be Indians.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
How many times have we all heard that?
Yeah. They work at their prison job or they work for the highway department. Then they complain about socialism.
Well,
but I want my Social Security.
I've certainly seen my check get all the taxes taken out.
Yeah.
All throughout.
When you work because I worked at the tribal court for 5 years. When you work for the tribe, you're getting the federal taxes taken out. I mean,
that's it.
That's it.
Oh, I got no money back this year. I get to pay. So
actually,
so did we.
Yay!
And I was like,
let's work in Canada.
No, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's always an option.
We might have to soon.
Yeah.
We might have to flee.
Yeah, that's what I don't know. Josh and I, like some people who may have told you that it's a risky proposition to come on this show. A lot of those people wouldn't be willing to hire Josh and I because we do this show. So he and I.
That's a shame because there is freedom of speech.
It is, but
you're very informed.
Yeah.
So
we try to be.
Well, I've noticed that there's different cultures on the res too, not just off the res, and so me and him are kind of latched into the more traditional side of the culture, the more bold, the more outspoken side, the more independent side of the culture, and it really, really clashes against those who have a different idea of sovereignty, a different idea of growth and of success. Their bars are different. Their priorities are different. And so I think that people who would be in that other camp hardcore and aren't savvy enough to see that sort of thing would find people like us like probably
offensive,
frightening.
Yeah, frightening.
It probably cuts at their inner self too, because
we're hitting like we're trying to hit that deep part of it, you know.
Right.
And so
somebody has to.
Yeah.
I
we
always
don't
say,
have that anymore in Onkwehonwe. We don't have that.
I always say, I'm not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not. I'm sparkly. I like glitter. I'm not for everyone. But I can talk to anybody, anywhere, about anything. And I like to talk.
Yeah.
So
I think that's that's a core component to doing this job. And it was something that I was wondering, that I want to ask you as well is, we tend to notice when you look at the outcomes of our elections, a lot of times it seems that it's a popularity contest.
Right.
And so, and this isn't to talk down about anybody who's won, but it does seem that, there frequently are people who win who maybe don't even have any true experience, any knowledge of the inner workings, how the tribe actually operates. But it turns out to be a popularity contest because I know this person. So what do you think about that? Like what's your take on, the substance of what is spoken about when we're having an election for the candidates?
I think that's absolutely true. It's very interesting. The bigger family wins often. And that's kind of disheartening because I have a huge family. So I'm hoping I'm very popular.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to be popular.
The best liked cousin.
Yeah, that's right. Right. So I'm hoping that will play into the election. However, I have done my time. I have been the frontline worker for 25 years. I have an education that I worked really hard for as a single mom pregnant at 17. So I've worked hard, and I hope people can see that.
Yeah.
But then I always ask the question, in my mind anyway, what made somebody decide to run for subchief? What made them think they were qualified?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good question to ask anybody. And hopefully they have a good answer. But you're right. I have seen that, and not always the best candidate wins.
Right.
And I'm not talking down about anybody. We do the best we can with what we know. So hopefully it goes my way.
Yeah. I mean, the Connors family is a large family, very politically, very politically juiced in. So
yeah, we populated quite a bit of the reservation.
Yes.
So you guys have big families.
Yes.
Yeah, we sure do.
And that, and it is, on the one hand, on the one hand, I can see it kind of harkens back to me a little bit of that closeness of the community, right? Like the bigger families, the ones who have been active in politics for a long time. And, there's a comfort to that, I guess. It's you could tell that that's something that's been going on in the community for hundreds of years,
Well, we're clannish. We have a clan system.
Right, exactly.
It's not that far away from a clan system.
That's what's interesting about it is that even, in an elected government system, that's a great insight. In
a small community like this.
Yeah,
Yes.
even, you know what I mean? Even for a family who may not go to the longhouse or anything like that, but they still operate in a way where their entire family will get together, they'll meet with candidates, and then their family as a block will make determinations on who they're going to support.
Yeah.
So it's that, when you think about it that way, it's, they're acting in a traditional, however people end up wanting to define traditional, but they're doing that, and some, maybe they don't even realize that they're doing it, but that kind of seems like something that's born into us.
Yeah.
Into the DNA.
When I vote for the best candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And if it happens to be my cousin or my uncle or whoever, my auntie, then that's what matters to me. But not everybody votes like that.
Yeah.
For me, if my family comes out and they don't think I'm the best candidate, that's fine. Mm-hmm. That's their right. But I'm hopeful that they do see that everything I've done and that I am a true leader of this community. Not only have I been a frontline worker, but I've also been volunteering, and I was one of the creators of the Akwesasne Coalition for Community Empowerment.
Okay.
Yes. Me and Melorina Back and Leona Barnes. Mm-hmm. We were there from the beginning.
Leona's ace.
Yeah. So I've been active. I haven't missed a trunk or treat and all of that stuff. So I think that's important.
When I was reporting for, yes, I don't know if you remember that, but when I was reporting for Indian Time, I was, were you with the CKON group that before, a couple years ago, maybe 3? I don't know, but I've seen you, I saw you around there before. I was trying to place you. And that's like the trunk or treat, that kind of community activism, involvement. I mean, that also is something that is important to the people when they vote. And that's, I commend you for doing that, because that's something that's, that's really important. That shows it's not just, you're not popping out because, people just know you and you're popular. It's because you actually care. You're out there doing the work in your spare time.
Yep.
You're doing, you're giving for others when, you could be with your family, like it, and not that it's a bad thing, but like, I would imagine you probably take your family. You're showing your family, this is what I'm doing, right?
Right. Actually, with my daughters, I made them dress up with me in whatever theme I was doing.
Yeah.
And they loved it. We are obsessed with Halloween, me and my girls. And so we haven't missed a trunk or treat. Now that I have a grandson, a brand new, beautiful grandson, he's going to experience that. And I'm so excited for that. We want to do everything with him right now. Take him and see the waterfalls. Take him to the fair. And he's only 6 months old.
Come on, baby, have fun. Let's go to roller coaster.
Yeah.
I'm like, Noelle, slow your roll. This kid will be... But she wants to do everything right now.
That's, though, that's good, because I think it seems like it'll set out a pattern going forward, you know what I mean, of doing those things, wanting to be, having your child experience all those things.
Yes. And
even if they don't remember.
And Noelle and my daughter Chelsea, she's living in the New York City area. Mm-hmm. She is, she's going to Fashion Week. She got picked to go to Fashion Week in September. And Noelle is now the director of the Holistic Health Foundation. Life Foundation. Sorry.
His boss.
I don't have a boss.
Yes.
You better know me better than nobody. Yeah. I don't know. Reen could probably boss me around. But that's about it.
Reen tries to boss everyone around. She usually wins.
Oh, come on now. Reen is great.
She is. She's awesome.
She's, you know what? I don't know.
She loves this community the most.
She really does. She really does.
She really goes through extra effort not to pick a side, but to contain all sides.
Actively. Because when I started working at the paper, I kind of... can be a bit of a controversial thing. I can do some controversial stuff. And Reen was, because I actually was concerned that Reen might, kind of not be so keen to, interact with me and stuff. She and I were, it was great. Like I'd never known her that well before. She is like the most warm person, will talk to you. She's incredible.
She's genuine.
She really is.
Mm-hmm. She is who she is. She always has been that way.
Yeah, I imagine.
The best of all the cook kids.
Oh, I'm not saying nothing. But she stays in her lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's told me that before. She's like, look, when it comes to the politics and stuff, I'm not getting in the middle of it.
Yeah, I don't expect her vote.
Yeah. Well, that's...
But that's okay. Because she has to stay in the middle.
For sure. I mean, she does a lot of the, she has candidates on the radio, all that stuff,
I totally get it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't typically vote for candidates myself. I'm not much of a voter. I'm a longhouse person, but I'm also kind of practical sometimes. So when there's like a referendum item, that's where I'll
But
pick.
you ran in 2022.
That was half a joke.
He was...
Yeah, I know.
It was satirical.
It was hilarious.
I mean,
it was hilarious. See... I thought I was the only one who thought it was funny. Like, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
I mean, it wasn't a 0% chance, so it's not like I'm not down.
Right.
I might be like Elon Musk in the place, but...
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, but it was, and I know we've talked about this before, and I'm glad that you liked it, because that was actually how Josh and I got to be friends.
Yeah.
And then we it led into this, and... I could see... Basically,
he said in the thing, I was right about everything.
Well, you also said I was right about everything. But, it's so you... because of that, you could see the satirical part of what Josh did.
Oh, for sure.
So do you think also that maybe people can't step outside in a situation like this and like see some of the absurdities in it that are going on? You know, like you can see some of the stuff that's like you're, you know, this is a serious thing, but like, you know, you need to step back and actually take a look at, you know, at the whole thing.
Right. And as a community, we use humor to get through all of the trauma we've been through.
Gallows humor, right?
So we always are, you know, at funerals, for example, we're over in the corner laughing about something that the person did, and, you know, or we did. And that's how we get through as a community. That unless you're, you know, here and you're attending stuff here on the reservation, I don't think other people get it.
Yeah.
So I think you have to stand back and look and be genuine and say, you know, Josh was doing meditation with us at noon by computer. So that's how I knew him. And I'm like, can we get Josh? Because he's really good. And, you know, here I am sleeping at my desk because he put me to sleep. Meditation. So that's how I knew him. And then I see him at the candidates night, and I watched virtually, and he had a full Gastoa and everything. I'm like, what is happening?
He gave me shit for wearing
this.
What is
happening?
When we were walking into the building, of course, him and Johnny B and William, they come rolling up, and they were like, hey, how come you don't have a bolo tie? I was like, you guys are like rotten people. But I mean, it's,
come on, you can give the governor a lacrosse stick. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. But I mean, that's just something that you notice.
Yeah.
And, you know, to be able to, you know, not everything is live or die moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And sometimes when it is, even you need to bring a little levity to it, right? Because like, what do you think about, like, if you're looking at something laser focused all the time, do you think you might, you know, there are times when you can lose sight of the, you know, the forest for the trees?
Absolutely. I'm a sociologist. I sit back and I observe a lot, and sometimes shut my mouth. Not too often, but I shut my mouth and I just observe to see how people are interacting with each other.
Sure.
And then I'm also thinking, what would I say in this situation? So I'm not one to sit back and just go, oh, I'm just going to be a meek, mild mouse here, and I'm just going to, you know, do what everybody tells me to do. That's not who I am. So if that's not what people want, then vote for somebody else.
Well, I think we need that, though.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's actually something I wanted to ask you about, too, was, you know, a lot of times when we see the subchiefs, it seems as though they do handle a lot of stuff. You know, they have things that they work on, but they don't always seem to be so, you know, you don't hear their voice a lot. Is that something that you would want to change? You know, you being a subchief, and how would you want to do that?
Absolutely, and I did tell you I like to talk.
Yes.
So if I become subchief, when? Let's try to, you know, manifest
Be
that.
positive.
When, yes.
Yes.
So it's going to be difficult to grab the mic from Benny Hearn,
Right.
because, you know, he likes the mic.
Yeah.
But I think, it should be our duty to take a little pressure off of the chiefs, who have a lot to do also, and be able to stand in and say, well, let me take care of this.
Right.
You know, this is my talent. This is what I'm interested in. This is where I have the knowledge. Let me take care of that. You know, I'm not an accountant person.
Right.
I'm not a business person.
Mm-hmm.
But I am knowledgeable about the community and what's needed in the community. So also, one big thing I like to mention is that the tribal employees, being one for so long, they need to be seen and heard. And I think one of the issues is we lack visibility on council. And I got no problem saying that. Like, I think often we hear, well, where's the chiefs?
Right.
You know, and they're busy. I get that. But if I have the time, I'd like to go and visit a program that may be struggling and saying, what do you need? What can we do? What are the issues? That sort of stuff. Be visible. That's what I would love to do because, being an employee for so long, I wish that would have happened for me.
I mean, I worked at the tribal court for 5 years. I can't recall a time when anybody on council actually showed up.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the court should be a very, vital part of our community.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a legislative branch. So you have the executive, the council, and then you have the court. So it's I do think a morale boost, right?
Right.
For the employees.
Right.
Because they're, they are the frontline workers. And, that was something that I had brought up when I ran for council. Of course, bring it back to me. But I just...
That won't be long.
But it's one of the things that I had, put out there was, the monthly meetings. I mean, to me, that doesn't seem like enough. What do you think about that? What about, what would how would you go about doing that? My idea was to every week, open my office doors at, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever, and then just be there for a few hours for people to freely come in. How would you, what would you want to do with that?
I think that's a great idea. I'm willing to do that. I have no kids at home. Mm-hmm. I'm an empty nester with adult kids. What else do I have to do? Listen to my husband play guitar? Watch Bridgerton?
I still haven't watched that yet.
Oh, wow. You need to watch that.
You know what? And that's an English show, right? Like British.
Yes, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's
The Colonizer.
Yeah.
It's the Great Colonizer.
They really do make great TV.
You watch them, it's like, how did these people conquer the world? They did.
That Shonda Rhimes is really killing it.
That's her show?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, because I liked, when Scandal first came out, I liked it. And then when, what's the one with Viola Davis? How to Get Away with Murder? Even Grey's Anatomy. I liked it at first, but then she starts going crazy. Like the stories get wild, and I'm like, all right, I'm good with this now. And I got made fun of by the boys for watching what was essentially a primetime soap opera, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So, what are some more challenges you would like to tackle? I heard the prison, the post prison reform.
Yeah, for sure. That we need to do something. Transportation. We need transportation just for the res because we struggle with taking somebody and getting them from McGee Road to an appointment in Malone.
Well, we built like dum-dums. Like we built our community like a bunch of dum-dums.
We're just not. We have to take better care.
Yeah.
And we again dealing with the most vulnerable population. Not everybody has a license because it got taken for whatever reason.
Usually alcohol.
Alcohol.
Usually that.
So you didn't pay for your license upgrade. That will be nice.
Yeah.
So, so we have to rely on whoever. Well, a great idea is for somebody to start a taxi business.
They do, but they're really expensive.
They're expensive. Very expensive.
Well, why?
Yeah, that's one of the things. And like when you talk about transportation, I don't know if the tribe still does this, but they used to have, like a shuttle to Messina or whatever.
Adirondack does,
but that was
it's timing.
It's so infrequent. So like even that intra travel within the territory, that's a great idea.
We've made ourselves reliant on cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to bite us in so many ways.
Yeah, and I'm sure council has talked about this in sessions, work sessions and everything. I just wasn't there. I wasn't at the table. Once I get to be at the table and I'll be able to see, and together, we have a lot of talented people in this community who can think creatively. And there's always a solution to a problem, but it takes creative thinking. And it takes knowledge. And if we just took the time to sit there and talk with each other instead of moving on to the next, to the next.
Just to check it off.
That's just not working.
Right.
We really need to focus on stuff like that. Another thing, housing. I live in Messina and, within the land claims, of course, or I couldn't run for subchief. But because there's no housing.
Yeah.
And we do have a family home on Connors Road, which my mother lives in, and I have to ask if I can spend the night. And then the next morning she kicks me out and says, okay, get out.
Get out of my space.
Had enough of you. So, yeah, that's a struggle. We don't have housing, so we're putting people in the transitional trailers, which are great. And then I seen that there's an idea for the tiny homes.
Yeah.
And that's a great idea if you have somebody coming out of jail who is a one person.
Right.
But that's not going to suit a family. So we have to think creatively. We have to come up with better solutions.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talk about housing quite a lot here
Yeah.
on the show, and I think it's like one of those key things.
Yeah.
And there's some obvious solutions that, for whatever reason, just aren't being used. I find it very strange that people will pay thousands of dollars. They'll pay twice a mortgage for rent every month.
Yeah.
And they'll do that for 25 years.
Right.
But yet they won't be given the money to buy a place.
Right. And they can afford the mortgage.
Yeah, they can afford
Absolutely.
the mortgage.
Because they're paying what, $1,250
Yeah.
a month, we'll say,
Yeah.
for rent, and a mortgage is maybe $800,
Yeah.
$700.
Yeah, because that house on the market. Now, I mean, of course, we all know real estate is really expensive on the res because we don't have much.
Right.
And then there's the difficulties with being able to get a mortgage, and we had PJ on here and talked about that.
Yeah.
But I just, I think it's, we want to keep our young people to be here, right? And what choice do they have when there's no housing?
Which is why we advocate smart urbanization.
Yeah. And I see, I call them cellar dwellers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a population that I think families struggle with because some kids don't want to work, and they don't have to. So they're living in the cellar, doing what they want, playing games and stuff. That's not the majority, I think, but that's, again, just not knowing what to do otherwise.
Yeah.
So housing is tough, and we do raise our kids to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
But, like the Connors family, when we overpopulate, where do we put them?
Yeah.
Right.
Where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have like a whole road pretty much. But, well, I mean, it's the same thing where we live.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at the developing road here.
the road.
You just drove on it. There's more than one house here.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's, like where we live, that's, down that road, it's a family road.
Yes.
But, it's, and Josh has talked about this with the housing seems to be a big thing with him, and it is for me too, but he's talked many times about the idea that everybody's going to be able to get their acre, and build a homestead. That's not realistic going forward. So he talked about building up. We have all these we have all these iron workers, the best in the world. What would you think about that, about building, okay, so we'll call them apartments, but people in New York City, you said your daughter lives down there?
Yeah.
They live in them their entire lives.
Yes.
I mean, there's no reason why you can't have a 2,000 square foot apartment and we can't have a high rise of them, where somebody can grow up their entire life.
We have a lot of vacant lots and a lot of
Yes.
vacant buildings that can be renovated. And I agree, build up, because we can't build out.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
I see so many vacant buildings. Recently, I was at the tribal meeting, and one community member raised the question, there's no place to hold an NA or AA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean there's no place to hold those meetings? In fact, we need them.
Yeah.
But, she was told no on some levels because nobody works past 5. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. It's an annoyance for me. It's like there's all these great things that happen between 8 and 4.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody's out to work. So basically, if your departments send you there, you get to go. And if you're not an employee of the tribe, or I see this a lot at Mohawk Council as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe even more. And
They're more bureaucratic than bureaucratic.
I'm not saying nothing.
I'll say some of them are socialists.
I'm shutting up. This is one time I'm shutting up.
There's a danger. There's a danger. No.
Self-preservation.
But yeah, that's the case too. That even when it comes to court, like, why are these things happening in the middle of why is family court in the middle of the day?
Right?
Like even in Franklin County, why is it other than all the people who get to be in charge don't want to change?
Well, probation and parole.
Yeah. Why is it all there in a day? Why isn't
You
all
want them to have a job.
Here's the deal with parole and probation. Say it's Franklin County, and our people, after getting out on parole, they have to go all the way to Plattsburgh.
Yeah.
And the probation parole officer will say, listen, I need you in Plattsburgh tomorrow at 9 a.m. And that's at 5 p.m. They're calling, what? We don't have transportation. Yeah. So there's a lot of scramble, and some families can't or don't want to help. So what do we do?
Right.
What's the answer? And we can't just tax one program. It has to be something. We have to get creative. I don't know what the answer is right now.
If only we had like a digital thing where you could like remotely talk to each other.
Right.
If there's the thing like that.
Something like Teams or Skype, just
Google
Meet. Just a suggestion.
Just a thought.
And you're literally in there for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
An hour. What is it to Plattsburgh? About hour 15.
Yep.
I mean, it seems with all of us criminal Indians, they could just send a probation officer here each day.
Well,
that's what they used to do.
Franklin County, I think, didn't the Franklin County stop sending them here?
Yes.
I don't understand. Would that be something? I mean, in my view, I would think that would be something that council should be battling for, with the county and the state, to have them come here on federal probation.
Or have an office here.
Plattsburgh, right.
Yeah.
Would that be something you would be, advocating for?
Absolutely. Because I've seen firsthand the people struggling. They're struggling to stay sober, and then we're expecting them to do impossible tasks. That's not right.
Yeah.
That's mixed up. So, yeah, absolutely. And why not ask? The worst they can say is no.
Right.
But again, we have to give them a space.
Yeah.
We have a lot of space that's not being used. Let's use it.
Yeah, all those rentals that they got rid of after they built that big giant $30 million building.
Yeah.
All those places they were renting ostensibly are free now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the old police station, for example, and different other buildings.
I mean, even the Bingo Palace.
Bingo Palace? Is that like... What's going on with that?
I don't know what's going on with it. You guys remember they had they wanted to turn it into like a lacrosse facility or something. I haven't heard anything about that since. But I mean, that whole building is steel, and I think it's pretty solid still. But I mean, that's got to be something to look at. The tribe owns it. That is, it's...
I'm just assuming, and, I could be a shot in the dark here, but I think it's money.
Yeah.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that would be, I think a natural lead into this. Job creation, right? So do you see that as an issue here that we need to work on? And, how would you go about kind of spurring that conversation more along to make it a priority?
Well, I think I know the problem is that it's the amount of pay. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the hardest working group of people get paid the least. And it's hard to keep people. So they're supplementing their income somehow. I was supplementing my income with, having a side gig.
Right.
And doing vendor shows and that sort of thing, just to have extra money to go to Jamaica.
Right.
For example.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely need to think of other avenues, though, because there's so many job openings that nobody is applying for. Mm-hmm. Why aren't they applying? We need to ask them, why aren't you applying? And again, I don't know the answer, but I have to ask the question first.
Sure.
And see what's going on. But there's so many jobs available and just nobody applying.
Yeah, I mean, that could be something that you tackle is a priority for, to really go out there and find out why.
Sure.
I mean, even get out in the community. You're out in the community all the time. That would be something great to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
As I do the news, one thing I notice is the the online stuff from the tribe has dwindled to almost zero, like releases of what we hear. Like I can go to Mohawk Council day to day; they got something posted.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're a mouthpiece for any of the elective councils. It's just that it's content I don't have to make.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
so like I've noticed everything from the tribe seems to come out of like communications society or communications department, and it's very
Well,
Bland.
it's very wordy.
What would you like to see?
Just daily updates. What's
Daily
going
updates.
on? What are we working on?
Through the website?
Through or just however through their website, through the portal, that would be fine.
Yeah,
Something like something that doesn't just come through communications.
Right.
Something more direct. Something less. We didn't use ChatGPT today. We're just telling you what's going on.
Yeah, right, right.
We're not getting paid per word here. We don't have to justify taking hours to write this.
Right.
So,
I do find that too. I've said this even in my classes. We have to do forum posts every single week. And I try to keep it simple. I try to talk the language that people understand and not, I mean, I can hang with the master's professors.
Sure.
But that's not where I am at. I have to meet the community where they're at. And it isn't using big jargon.
Right.
So I mention that all the time, and I try to keep it simple. I try to use humor in my posts, and not everybody gets it. Sometimes nobody answers on my posts. And I'm fine with that because that's less work I have to answer on those.
and it doesn't have to be Facebook because you know what? We should probably get away from using big giant corporate products.
Right?
I mean, we can make our own platforms. Yeah. I mean, the portal's an example, but there's, Discord. There's
well, you just mentioned a job.
Yeah, I know.
Make our own platforms.
Right.
That means we need to hire somebody who makes platforms.
We need a nerd.
Oh, we have a lot of them.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, too, is like, I mean, I've noticed it's just something that I always wonder if these kinds of things that we're talking about here, I mean, I would have to assume that these are getting discussed, behind the closed doors with the council. It's just, I think as Josh had, said, we don't seem to be getting many in-depth notifications from the tribe about these kinds of things. And, one monthly meeting, that's not enough.
Yeah.
And they come on the radio once a month as well.
And they're relying,
And give updates?
Yeah, they give updates. They're not going to be challenged at all. That's You don't. CK1's never going to challenge anybody.
I have a millennial and a Gen Zer.
Yeah.
And I'm a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
So we cover the bases here.
Yeah.
And my husband's a boomer. Yeah. So we got it all covered. But my girls have said that they don't listen to the radio.
I don't either.
Yeah.
They said
I don't either, and I work there.
they're not on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because, that's for old people.
Yeah.
My son is 19. He told me, he was like, Luggany, Facebook is for old people.
Yeah, that's
So
what
I told him, go to your room. And I
For
want to see you
boomers
for
to
a couple
complain about
Yeah.
races.
Yeah, it's I think where it's at is Instagram for at least the Gen Zers, and I don't want to be friends with all of them.
Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat.
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Instagram.
I don't know how to use Snapchat. I tried.
It's okay.
I just forget it.
Yeah, I use Twitter because I like to argue about politics. So,
You mean X?
Oh, yeah. I still say Twitter
Yeah.
because Elon Musk is a tool. So he throws a fit whenever you still say Twitter. So I do it just to grind his gears.
I mostly use Instagram.
Yeah. For yourself.
Yeah, a little bit of Discord.
He made
TikTok.
some funny TikToks when we were running for council. He did some pretty funny ones. I got to give him that.
What made you run for council?
Me?
Yeah.
John Bigtree was going to do it, but then he wasn't available that day.
What about you, Isaac? Why did you run?
Oh, there was a myriad of reasons. I mean, it was a lot of it was. I wrote that story about the transfer station situation, and they were going to basically give it to a convicted felon for fraud.
Oh.
And I wrote a pretty decent detailed piece about what had happened, how they missed it completely, why, because, and to me it seemed like they were hiding behind cameras because we weren't able to meet in person as frequently, and I understand why, but that was a major reason why he did that. I really thought and I don't care, I'll say it, the incompetence to miss that. Who is not looking at doing a full background check on a guy that we're going to give our transfer station to? You know what I mean? How do you miss that?
Right.
And, that really bothered me. And I thought, one of them too was the opening your doors more than once a month. I mean, having, just even if the others don't want to do it, just I would open my door every week for a few hours at least. And until everybody wanted to go home, I would stay, Why not?
I wanted to buy a new Cadillac.
Yeah, I mean,
so when you get elected, if you get elected, that's the first thing you have to do. It's the rules.
Driving, that's bad on gas.
It's the rules.
No thanks.
You get the electric one.
Well, you don't got to drive far.
Yeah.
You're right around the corner.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many things that that we all see, I think. And
well, I've heard so many times. Oh, I never thought of that from people whose job it is to think of that.
Yes.
Right.
And that is disheartening. That's I don't think I'm very special. I'm a little bolder than most people, and maybe that's just foolhardiness. Maybe I just have oppositional defiance disorder. But there's too many times where I'm like, that's a good idea. Yeah. Why am I thinking of this? I'm not paid. So I had a court thing, and I defeated a tribal lawyer in court. Why did that happen?
Right.
Yeah.
I teach yoga, as the defendant. Great. As a tribal, apparently tribal member or whatever, dude, I'm concerned. Well, number one, why are these people focusing? Why are they prioritizing things? And two, why am I winning?
Right. Right?
You went to law school. I dropped out of school and I've been a dozen different things because I have undiagnosed ADHD.
I always say, that's interesting you say that, because when I ask a question and somebody says, I don't know, and I say, well, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's your job.
Right.
Shouldn't you know?
And if you don't know, you should be working on that and coming back to that person with an in-depth answer.
I just Google it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know, I Google it. AI comes up, and
well, that's you can learn. You can learn a lot. I mean, we have the internet. It's all at the tip of your fingers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the truth is if we don't know the answer, other people can Google it. The people who ask the question.
And then they can make that person look kind of stupid and unprepared.
Yeah.
And that's not a good look either.
I'm not calling anybody stupid and
No. I'm not.
I'm going to stay in my lane like Reen.
Who do you hate the most?
Yeah. Let's see what kind of craziness we can get going here.
All right. So what are some things you have to do leading up to the election? And you're gonna meet your signs.
Yeah, my signs are coming in. They're different.
Okay.
Let's just say, because I am Deva Melissa. That's my alter ego.
Okay.
So they're hot pink and black.
Nice.
Yeah. They're going in some places that people won't expect because I asked if I could.
Okay.
So I think I'm thinking outside the box there. I also have little cards coming. I thought I'd make some carrot cakes for the elders.
That's new. The cards, that's new.
Yeah, they're like business cards, and it just says who I am and a little bit of my experience, and that's it. It's like a little business card to hand out.
Mini resume.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
If they got questions, I even put my phone number on.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
accessibility.
And then if people want to call me names and stuff, I just block them.
I mean, well, if you get elected, that's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah.
No matter what you do.
And and that's fine. That's fine. You can't please everybody, but I like to think that I have a way of matching people's energy and meeting them where they're at, and it's okay. You come in yelling and screaming, that's okay, because I will remain calm, and hopefully that will match.
I do notice some elected people like to kind of play the martyr.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we suffer so much. It's like, dude, you signed up for this.
Right.
I can't argue back the way that you're approaching me.
Yeah.
Do you want me to feel bad for you?
Yeah. We shouldn't argue. We shouldn't raise our voice and say, what's going on? What's the problem? And what do you need?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
do you think you need? How could I help?
Right.
And, I'm not expecting to change the world. I'm not expecting to, become the Messiah of the res. But I am expecting to make little changes that may affect the future. So, and the present. So that's all I can do. That's what I'm going to run on. I call myself the advocate of Akwesasne because that's what I have been.
Yeah.
I have spent my whole life actually being the advocate. So, and I don't mind. It's who I am. I'm never going to get away from it
Yeah.
until I'm in my grave.
Well, I think we could definitely use that. I mean, that's something that's heartening to hear, that's your thought process going into it. I think that everybody who ends up listening to this, I think that would be something that they would love to hear.
I hope so. I don't know everything, but I know a lot.
Sure.
And what I don't know, I'll learn.
Well, you have humility too, which is sometimes rare.
You have to.
Mm-hmm.
The humblest.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Listen,
I'm the most humble.
Listen, I'm being on my best behavior.
All right, we're going to wind down now.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys are
This was awesome.
a lot of fun.
Tell everybody your name once again, just so they get it. Devalicious.
I am, no.
Diva Lissa.
Let me. I am Melissa Connors, just a girl from Frogtown. They know me by Deva Melissa and Deva Melissa, hence Melissa. And that's who I am, and that's who I don't make no apologies for that. It's who I am, and I've even put it on my sign. Melissa Connors, parentheses, Deva Melissa.
I'm really looking forward to the signs.
I mean,
me
hot
too.
pink and black.
Yeah,
You
that's
could
pretty.
expect nothing.
That's pretty
There
badass.
may be some glitter on a couple that are like right in the center.
Oh,
of things.
good. I'm going to
Nice.
take those to the building, just shake it on everything.
Yeah.
I hope nobody knocks them down.
We don't usually have that really.
The knock down the signs?
Yeah.
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Tend to stay pretty.
Yeah, people tend
Cool
to be pretty
about
good
that.
That's
about that.
good.
Yeah, that
That's
is.
good.
Well, there's no sidewalk, so who's going to walk up to it?
True.
Well, I paid a lot of money for them too. I don't
I
need
bet.
that.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, it sounds like you put some real money into those.
Yeah, I could have used a donor, but whatever. It's fine.
So Independent 2.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, this is Sage Against the Machine. I'm Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
And I'm Melissa, Deva Melissa.